Yeah, I have the privilege of hosting or emceeing this for you guys. So as I introduce these guys, start thinking about any questions you might have, and then we're going to need somebody to be bold and ask the first question. So be thinking if that's you, or if you have any questions for these guys. So immediately to my left is Lindsey Valenzuela, and I feel like she doesn't really need much of an introduction for you guys, but in 2013, she was the second fittest woman on the planet, which is pretty cool. And she was also 7th in 2015 in the CrossFit Games. She was on the LA Reign. She's won the OC Throwdown before. She was on the USA Invitational team for in 2013. She's a varsity volleyball player at California Lutheran University, and she's a CrossFit Level 1 coach. She also owns her affiliate, and she has a beautiful family as well. So, Lindsey Valenzuela, guys. Next, we'll introduce Jessica. Jessica Lucero is a career 58-kilo American record holder in the snatch, clean and jerk, and total, multiple-time Team USA member. She has a pug puppy named Ray, which is like her little kid, so which is awesome. And she's married to CrossFit Games athlete Christian Lucero, and is the one and only. Oh, okay. I was reading her bio. She's making some jokes. So, up next, Mike Cerbus. I said that right? Said that right? Yeah, said that right? Yeah. Okay. And he competed in the sport of weightlifting at an elite national level from 2005 to 2014, so almost a decade. He medaled at 3 national championships and his 5 American Open championships, taking out the title as 2011 as the American Open champion. He has a best lift of 308 pounds in the snatch, which is 140 kilos, and he's not that big. And I'm not trying to knock you. I'm just saying this is pretty good, man. I've only done 305, and I'm much bigger, so I feel small. It's weird. Anyway, and he also has clean 374 pounds. So, Mike, you guys. And then we have our most recent CrossFit Games athlete, Logan Collins. He's a 2 times CrossFit Games athlete, 2017, which is this past year. He was 11th, so he crushed it. 31st the year before. He's the head coach and owner of CrossFit Rejoice, and he also won the South Regional last year. He enjoys snowboarding, hunting, mountain biking, and long walks on the beach. So this is your athlete panel, guys. If you guys can't hear me that well, I'm sorry. I keep dropping it because of that feedback. But, so, does anybody want to start off and have any questions for one of these guys, or for the panel in general? Come on. Okay, in the back. She's going to come all the way up here. But you have to tell us your name and where you're from. Are you going to ask me a question? So, her question was for Lindsey. She's asking for, after motherhood, how did your training have to change?
Yeah, so becoming a mom and training, it's always a never-ending balance. But I'm lucky to have so many people surrounding me at my gym, my family, my husband. But my first priority is my child, my son. But, you know, it's just finding the right time to train and being flexible. You know, when he first was born, I started back in the gym 2.5 months later. He was still, you know, an infant. So there was only so much I could do in the gym before he needed me to feed him. Or he just wouldn't last that long in the gym. And, you know, you become even more selfless when you have a child. So there's not a question in my mind. If I can't train for the day, I can't train. But I have a really good group of people surrounding me that really do help out.
Awesome. So I think that, you know, one thing that she said there was being selfless, right? And so I think that that's a huge thing. It's indicative of us and our faith, and making sure that we take that into our daily lives and start applying that, whether it be in motherhood or in coaching and all those different things that we do. Anybody else have a question. We have a few from our social media and different things, but if you guys here have a question, we'd like to hear from you first.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Tyler from Minnesota. Just wondering, in your own training, I know a lot of people say a prayer beforehand. A lot of people will say prayers of gratitude after. Is there anything in the nitty-gritty during the workout that you do to implement your faith into your competition, into your training?
That's a good question. So for you guys, if you didn't happen to hear, he's talking maybe even a little bit louder than me, but how do you integrate faith into like the midst of your training rather than just before or after, but maybe like in the midst of a workout when it's hurting or when it's hard? How do you integrate your faith? Jessica, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so I recently started doing this. Actually, Becky and I worked through this like in 2015-ish, but I try to say, like, be present in prayer the entire workout or entire competition. So I'm kind of remembering that the competition's not about me necessarily, and that the point of being there is to glorify him, So I'm like at the chalk tray about to take a lift and I'll say a prayer, or I'm walking up to the bar and I'll say a quick prayer, just like use me, just something small. I don't know if you guys do that, but
I kind of have the same routine before every. Can you hear me? Closer. I have the same routine before I go out or something like that. It's just kind of to say, this isn't about me. This is about Christ, and whatever I can do out there, just let it glorify Him. Kind of the same as Jessica, but the beforehand is where I kind of have my time, and then I just let Him use me out there, however He needs to do that during the whole time. So.
Is mine close enough? All right. I was going to get with where Jess said and louder? Okay. Better? All right. Jess was saying being present in the moment. And one of the things that I've started to learn, and it's easy when you're a weightlifter because in the heat of the moment it's still very calm. So if you're a CrossFitter, it might be a little bit more difficult. But is just kind of having that conversation with God. Like I like to have a running dialogue kind of all day long. So my mind is maybe not necessarily trying to reach for a specific prayer. I think sometimes that can be challenging in your faith, is you don't know what to say. So just kind of that constant thank you, like being present in the moment and just thankful for that moment, and being okay with having a very casual conversation with God.
Awesome. Think about your next question, guys. I'm going to take one from our other questions that I have here, and it's I'm gonna put this on the two girls just because I feel like this is a little bit more appropriate for them. And maybe it's appropriate for the guys too. It's how do we stay away from making body image an idol if CrossFit or fitness is our career? Basically, how do we put ministry first when we're surrounded by the incessant focus on physical development or how you look or just that whole image thing?
So I went through the whole image thing recently, postpartum, going after I had my son. In the fitness industry, whether it's CrossFit, bodybuilding, or whatever, a byproduct of being fit is the way we look, and we enjoy the way we look. But I had a lot of weight to lose after I had my son, and it doesn't matter if you have a baby or you go through a medical condition or you're beginning your weight loss journey. All of our gifts are given to us by God, and I felt on my heart that it was my journey to share with everyone. And God had me go through the weight loss journey because He wanted me to understand and be able to relate with clients or people that come up to me and say, hey, I lost 60 pounds doing CrossFit. But it's not always about the way you look, and unfortunately that is a big part of our industry. But for me, it was being able to relate with everyone, to share my emotions, and be able to ask God, why was I going through this? And it really did strengthen my faith because I found myself sitting there, reading my devotions, reading the Bible, saying, and being able to question my faith. And I think God wanted me to do that, and it really did strengthen my faith because I was allowed to question him through all that heartache and losing the weight that I had to lose. So I really found myself, understanding that it wasn't just about the way I look, but about the journey and the things that I gained from a hard journey.
I think that with CrossFit, your bodies are kind of part of the showcase, and in weightlifting, it's a little bit more modest. But I feel like in training, if you're hot or whatever, it's hard not to think, oh, I need to take my shirt off. But I think the importance is like intention, right? Like if my intention is to take off my shirt because I want people to see my body, then that's the wrong decision. If I'm taking my shirt off because I'm so hot and I'm like drenched in sweat and I just I'm gonna overheat and pass out, then I think that's okay. I think it's a hard balance for sure, but it's all about kind of checking your intention with all the decisions and your actions, especially being married. I feel like a lot of people point fingers, like in nutrition, we have to take pictures of our bodies and send it to our coaches. And, sometimes I'm like, I'm in the middle of a weight cut and I'll post a picture and people will be like, aren't you a Christian? Why are you doing that? And it's like, well, my intention was the journey of this weight cut is really challenging for me, and I'm working hard and I'm proud of, how far I've come. That was my intention. My intention wasn't like, hey, everybody, look at my six-pack. I'm in really good shape right now. So I think it's kind of a fine line for sure. But that's what I try to do.
Yeah, that's great. I think that, with both these girls, they're both speaking from two different angles. Lindsey with having her son, I thought a lot of people can relate to that, and then just coming back and I think her focus probably was on fitness, and it's just on what she loves doing, and same thing for you. And I think when it comes from a passion of what we love to do, sometimes the byproduct for a lot of us, even you guys sitting out there, is that we look better than your average person. But what are our intentions? And I think too, when we think about intentions, that kind of goes with everything. And I think a lot of times we sit up here, or maybe these guys sit up here. I know I do as a host, and I kind of worry. I'm like, what are these guys going to find out about me, or that I'm not 100% legit all the time, And I think that maybe we can all admit that we're not all perfect all the time, but we're all striving to make God look really good, and we want to love him a ton. And then sometimes we come a little short, but then we turn around and we go, but God, I still want you to look really good. And we just every day go back to the cross, and that's our intention, is to make him look really, really good. Okay? Anybody else have a question? Or who's my next question, I should say? The crowd is growing, so I just want to make sure.
Ben, I'll back here.
I hear you.
I'll go off a little bit of Jess and Lindsey. We're both talking, I guess, from... Better? Oh, I can hear, yeah. It wasn't me, it was the mic. Intentions play a big role, and from a male perspective and maybe a different spin on things is I think I'm the only retired athlete up here. Okay. And I think when we're looking at body image or competition or training, and you're forced to think about the intent of why you're doing something. One of the reasons that I had some closure in retiring from competition was I found that I was competing because I was nervous about what my identity would be if I wasn't competing. And then I also had to kind of take a moment and wonder why I was even thinking that. Was I competing because I was prideful? Was I competing because I liked the intention? Or was I competing because I wanted it to be something bigger than myself, to exercise some gifts that God gave me and have a bigger platform? So that self-reflection that something like body image can give you can also
Motivation.
make you start to find your own intent and purpose for why you're doing something.
What were you going to say, Jessica?
Oh, it's like your motivation for what you're doing and why you're doing it. I was just playing off that.
Yeah, totally. No, it makes a whole lot of sense. Does anybody else out there want to add anything to that? Okay, cool. So I'm going to come back to you guys as the audience, but I'm going to read another question, and it's how do you keep Christ in the center when we're so focused on getting better as athletes? right? How do we make sure that our walk with God maintains its, that most important thing in our life?
For me, it's the accountability system. Lindsey said something about it earlier, but both jobs, weightlifting, CrossFit, it seems to be a full-time gig. So that's it. So I seem to wrap myself up in that a lot, and I have a very core group of guys that will call me out on that. And if things start getting a little bit too wrapped up into CrossFit, then they'll call me out, slow me down. One of them sitting over there, so red shirt. But yeah, surround yourself with the right people to keep your. Okay. Yeah, just surrounding yourself with the right people. That's it for me. If I have those guys in my corner and my family's on my side and they're kind of keeping me grounded, then everything seems to work itself out with keeping Christ at the center of the training and my life. So.
I make sure that you're keeping Christ in the center of your life and, taking some time to yourself morning and night, maybe even if it's 5 minutes to sit there by yourself and just have a conversation with him. I think that's what helps me keep me accountable and makes my relationship with God there. It's just like a relationship with your significant other. If you don't take that time with just them, you start to get a little bit distant. So I make sure, because I enjoy it, not because I feel like I have to, but I take that time with just me and God, and I talk with him.
For me, I try, I'm super obsessive about weightlifting. I'll catch myself in the middle of the night, trying to fall asleep, just replaying my workout that day and thinking about what I could do better next time, or I could have done better that day, or what I want to change. And I'm constantly trying to check myself. So when I catch myself doing stuff like that, even in the middle of the day, if I'm just in a conversation with somebody and checking out and thinking about weightlifting, I'm like, I'm supposed to be here for a reason. I'm in this conversation. I want to be there for that person, or I'm going to bed. I should be praying. I should be talking to God instead. So just kind of being aware, I guess, of where my head's at. And I'm a weightlifter for a purpose for him, and I'm not a weightlifter for me. So I should have my eyes on him to be the best weightlifter. And so that's what I try to do.
Is this one louder? Still? I still like this one better. The question was keeping Christ in the center, even though we're so consumed with what we're doing. And I think that's it. I guess it's me, it's personal, is I'm still constantly having that conversation in my head with God. Everything I'm doing is because of God. I have a faith because of God. I'm here because of God. What am I ultimately wanting to do? I'm wanting to die and go see him. So if I can remember that, it can also make a lot of very big situations very small, because I realize that I'm also very, very small, and I have a very specific purpose that I can be aware of within that. So it just, to me, it always comes back to talking, whether it's in my head or verbally, not pushing something to the side, or not wanting to have that honest conversation with myself and with God.
Awesome. Nice to hear from all four of the athletes on something. The funny thing is a question like that, it's the Bible gives a blueprint on how to keep Christ in the center of our lives, and it's staying in the Word, having fellowship, and being in prayer, right? Those are our lifelines as Christians, is the Word, fellowship, and prayer. And how you can have the right self-talk or the right perspective that Mike was just talking about. If you're not doing those things on a regular basis, it's hard to have that eternal mindset where you're thinking about glorifying God more than glorifying yourself. You're constantly reaching for maybe your own goals or your own things, whatever you have going on, but are you really ready to lay down whatever those dreams are or whatever those relationships are before the cross? Are you really like Abraham and Isaac, and are you willing to take your most prized possessions and give them up to the Lord, right? And if you don't have that lifeline, so if you're feeling weaker or you're not where you want to be with God, and you can look at one of those areas like the Word, I don't spend any time in the Word, well then you know that that's an area where you need to fill that in, and God's just calling to you. He's not saying, hey, do this as like duty. He's saying like, I'm going to meet you right there, right? If you're not surrounded by believers, maybe you're surrounded by the wrong group of people, and the wrong group of people are giving you influence, right? Well, they're going to just undermine everything that you've been doing. You know, and if you're not spending time in prayer and being intimate with God so you can just share your heart with him, so he can kind of show you that he can personalize everything that you've been reading about, right? And everything that you're in fellowship about. Like, it's really, really hard to walk with God in a way that you can keep him at the center. And so if you're having trouble in that area, like we all struggle with, it really, a lot of times, can come right back down to one of those three things, is the word, fellowship, and prayer. And so that's kind of why I like this this format, right? We get a little fellowship. We're right here in the middle of Wodapalooza, and we get a little bit of fellowship. And so hopefully we all leave here and be a little bit stronger because of it, right? So we love Wodapalooza and Guido for giving us this platform. But somebody else have a question? Want to share something? We have a microphone right there. We'll just pass it to you. Come on. We can cut this short if you guys want to. Oh, we got another one.
Thanks, guys, for humoring me. Tyler from Minnesota again. So I've failed at things a number of times, and that's super tough. Just wondering how you guys have your faith influence in experiences when you experience failure. How does your faith play a role in that? And how do you, what's been your experiences?
For mine personally is failure is always an opportunity for growth. So it's very easy for us to say positive things and smile and be happy when everything appears to be going well. When you experience something as simple as missing a lift, losing a loved one, losing a business, we ultimately don't know what that's going to lead to in the future, but through faith, not sight, if I have faith that it's going to be towards something better, to me that makes me happy. And Ben was, I liked his going back to Abraham and Isaac, and recently I've reading and reflecting a little more on Paul, and he was a prisoner in Rome, and all of his followers thought it was the worst thing in the world, a curse. It was horrible. He needs to get out of there, and he told them to stop. He was thankful for it because he knew there was something positive that was going to come out of that. So depending on where you are in your walk with that faith and that trust, it's giving you an opportunity to exercise that trust that ultimately at some point, and it might be at the very end, that's where something great's going to happen. So for me, that just gives me a ultimate sense of like security and happiness, even in some really unfortunate moments of failure.
I actually recently just had a pretty bad competition at the World Championships, and afterwards I made a post like, you know, I failed myself, I failed my team, I failed USA, and another Christian, I guess, in the community called me, and he was like, and he's an amazing athlete himself, an Olympian, probably one of the best athletes that we've had in the history of USA weightlifting. And he called me and he was like, he reminded me, like, you have to be thankful. Even though that was not the competition that you wanted, you have to be thankful for that experience. You have to be thankful for the air that you're breathing. You have to be thankful that you had the opportunity to live there, and be thankful for what this is going to do for you now. Like, now it's a catapult, right? Now I'm, like, hungry to do better. That wasn't there before I failed. So I kind of have to just be like, you know, praise you anyways. Thank you for bringing me here. Thank you for this opportunity to grow. Thank you for everything, good and bad. And before Olympic trials, I told myself, you know, no matter what happens, if I make the Olympics, if I don't make the Olympics, I'm all in. And that means being all in with whatever his plan is for me. So it was obviously his plan for me not to make the Olympics. So I have to be thankful, you know. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, and thank you for using me here, regardless of if I got what I wanted or not. You know, it's ultimately not my plan or not my life it's not about me. So I'm just kind of going along with the ride and going where he tells me to go. And so I don't know. I just try to say thank you, even if it's bad.
Yeah, I can relate to that on a lot of different levels of, you know, being in the public eye and having a huge disappointment or not achieving something that you know you wanted to achieve so badly, and you know everyone in your corner wanted you to achieve so badly. But I always tell people when I'm talking with others and they're like, I just don't understand why this is happening to me. I don't understand why that happened. I always say there's a reason why. You may not find out tomorrow, weeks from now, months from now, years from now, but God's going to show you the reason why it happened. And, you have to just try to stay present. It's okay to be upset and mad in the moment and be like, man, why is this happening to me? God, why did you do that? It's okay to say that and feel that way, but at the end of the day, you have to understand that there is a reason why. And it'll appear to you, and when that reason does appear to you, you're going to be like, oh, so that's why that happened. And it's just going to come full circle and make sense.
One thing for me, it's kind of sure all these guys that was great, and I really was listening to that from each of you. One little kind of thing my training partners and I do, say if we have a bad day, a bad lifting day, or just a bad day in general, we always kind of joke around and tell each other, like, you can't take it with you, or something like that. And it's so true for me, and at the time, I don't really think about it. I'm like, hey, shut up. I don't really care. And then as I get going, I'm like, a lot of truth behind that. You can't take it with you. If you're that mad about something, especially for me, I get very intertwined in my training, so if everything doesn't go perfect, I'm having a bad day. And so with that little phrase that I can have somebody say to me, it really brings me back down to just ground level and kind of puts a little smile on my face, honestly, while I'm doing that. And as I'm failing, I'm still kind of smiling through it, knowing there will be growth through that, but not to depend on that solely for, life, like CrossFit. It's not a good thing to put CrossFit at the center of your life. It's a good thing to put CrossFit at the center of your life, so.
And I think that's cool because we have these guys all sitting up here and we look up to them because of what they've accomplished, but none of these guys would be who they are without their failures, without the tests and trials in our lives. That's what James says, count it all joy when you go through various trials because it creates this steadfastness, this perseverance that you have, I know for myself, and Logan could probably infer this, and Jessica might know this, I've competed against her husband, I think, like 3 times, and he's beat me every time, except for last year he got injured, but whatever. And then Lindsey probably knows this about me too, because she's actually come and stayed with my family for a little bit, but I've tried really, really, really hard to make the CrossFit Games. And I've been top 10 at regionals 5 times. But I've never made the CrossFit Games, and it's really hard for me. It's a hard pill for me to swallow, and that window now is kind of closed on me. It's not what I'm trying to do anymore. But I see what God did was he helped me make cool relationships like with Lindsey or the different people that I know and giving me a platform. And you know what he was doing? He was making he was making somebody he could use. He was making a preacher. He was making an evangelist. He was making a teacher. And you know what? God's making something with your trials. Like he doesn't not know what's going on, right? Like he gets it and he sees it and he hears it. And if you go back to the Word, if you go back to fellowship and you stay in prayer, like you're going to start to see that and you're going to be okay with that. Like I can go to bed and I don't lose sleep over not making the CrossFit Games. It might sound like it because I tell you guys about it, but that's just my story, right? That's the context of how God kind of pushed me up here, you know what I mean? And so for you guys, he's doing something, right? And you get lost and you think that he's not. And so I just want to encourage you guys that no matter where you are or why you wandered in, maybe it's because you saw Jess lift and you were like, I'm just going to go listen to this thing because I want to know more about her. Or maybe it was Lindsey and, or whatever. You saw Logan do, I think, 21 muscle-ups unbroken or whatever it was at regionals, or close to it. I don't know, but I'm sure he can. I'm just saying, like, you got drawn in here for a reason, but maybe it wasn't to hear about God, but God's doing something in you, and you're here for a reason too. So, somebody else have a question that they want to ask? Oh, right there in the back. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Morelli. I'm from Puerto Rico. Okay, so you've been talking about the lows, but I want to talk about the highs. In CrossFit, there's a lot of very passionate people, and sometimes they worship the top athletes. Have you ever found yourself at a high point in your life where maybe your head kind of blew up a little bit, and how has God kind of humbled you and showed you the real priorities? How have you handled that? And also, what would you say to the people around here about, worshiping or a CrossFit athlete or a weightlifting athlete?
I guess I'll take it from an athlete point of view. Having people come up to you and wanting to take a picture of you, or as far as coming up to me and like crying because they're meeting me, is still kind of makes me uncomfortable. I'm not good with emotions, so I mean, like in that sense. But it's a cool feeling to have, like people saying, you inspired me, and all my hard work and everything that I've done. I would hope that even if it's one person, that I can inspire them either to make themselves better in the terms of fitness, their fitness goals, or if they see my love for God and my faith, that it inspires them to reach out to them, to maybe a ministry, or to have conversations with God. So my main purpose isn't to inspire others, whether it's fitness goals or their relationship with God. And maybe I inspire them to have a relationship with God. For me, what's leveled me is having my son. I've always told people before I had my son, I've been at the top, and I've gone from the very top to not even qualifying for the games, to qualifying for the games, to taking time off to start my family. And there's always another part of your life other than CrossFit. And I love CrossFit. I always love the sport. But there's more important things in life that aren't going to go anywhere after you're done being an athlete, whether it's you're a professional NBA player or a CrossFitter. So it's important to have that balance and realize that there's more important things than just competing all the time. And my son has leveled me in saying, you know what, if I don't make a lift or I don't qualify, at the end of the day, I'm still going to go home, and my son's going to love me no matter what. And that's what's really leveled me out.
I have been on both sides of that also. I've been competing for 13 years, so it took me a long time to get to where I am now. And so I've been on the side where I'm like looking up at all these amazing athletes and thinking that they were like idolizing them in that way. And now I'm in this position where people are, taking pictures and stuff like that. And I think that it's, for me, I just try to remember that if I'm keeping my eyes on him, then that's why. And I'm in the tension, I try to think about it like I'm supposed to meet this person for a reason, and I try to make time for them. Like, okay, talk to me about yourself, and don't make it just about me. Like, I want to make them feel special, or like make them feel like it's not a big deal or whatever. Like that's what I try to do when I'm meeting people, because I remember what it's like to be on the other side. But it's hard because it is really easy to be like expecting that, because you get used to it. You do. And I think that it's like an everyday, every event type of having that awareness to make sure that you're not getting caught up in it, and that your intentions are good, and you're not distracted by worldly things like that. But I think that it's a balance too, from like looking at those athletes. For those people, I think it's okay to look at somebody and think they're great, I want to be more like them, as long as they're like, I know who I am, and I know my worth, and I know that God loves me, and I can be that because God's put that on my heart, and like that's the way you're looking at it, not like, oh, they're amazing and they're God's gift and I don't have any gifts, like you're special too. And I think that's important to remember if you get caught up in that situation, you're special too.
I think I can take it almost from like a fan angle. Like if we're looking at somebody that just won an event, and you're looking at them and you're thinking they're so full of themselves, or you follow them on Instagram and they post all these things, and man, that person doesn't care about anything but themselves and winning, and they're so caught up in all these things. But that's our perception of what we're seeing. So like for us in here is, I think, being aware of our perceptions of others. If I don't have a personal relationship with somebody, I don't really know what they're thinking or what they're feeling. I just know what they're projecting. So it's also very valuable for me not to look at that and start making judgments. And that's difficult for all of us because there's a lot of people in this community that my initial thought or judgment on them was like, I didn't really even want to meet them because I thought, like, I've seen them on Instagram, that person's a tool. And then I meet them and I talk to them for 5 minutes and they're the kindest, nicest, most genuine person in the world. And I'm immediately humbled in the fact that I was the one in the wrong, even thinking that. So kind of just, I think, checking our perceptions in the moment and of what we're seeing, and also realizing that in a sport like CrossFit that's very visible, we also only see a small piece of each popular person, popular athlete, popular organization, and to be careful about kind of making our own judgments before we get something more personal.
So I have a little take on this question as well. I mean, like seeing people as maybe better than they really are, and kind of worshiping somebody or being worshipped would just be really weird. But we have to remember too that all of our righteous acts are like filthy rags. That's what the Bible says, right? Like every good thing that we think we bring to God, it's nothing, right? He's the one who maintains that relationship. His work is what's good, right? And I tell people this all the time. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're, I don't want to use anybody's names. I don't think I'm singling them out, right? But like anybody, right? The top of the top, the worst of the worst. Everybody has their own issues. Everybody has something going on. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a demon, so to speak, right? And we're all one or two bad decisions from becoming the worst version of ourselves, right? And it's only staying in prayer, it's only staying in the Word, it's only staying in fellowship and staying connected to God that's going to keep us from that, right? And that's where we really need to make sure that we stay is closely with God as possible. That's what we're trying to do, stay as close with God as possible. I know we have to wrap up pretty soon. Can we take like one, maybe two more questions? If you guys want access to these guys and want to ask them a question, it'd be great. I'll look up another one while you guys think.
It doesn't have to be like the deepest question in the world either. If you guys just want to know what, favorite color Lindsey has, or what Jess likes to get at the coffee place, you never know what it'll lead to.
I lost my questions because they were on my email. Oh, here we go. Good.
Hey, I'm Greg. Just a most embarrassing CrossFit moment.
Most embarrassing
Or athletic or CrossFit moment.
most embarrassing athletic moment. I like it. Now they're getting shy.
I know, there's so many actually.
I mean, not thousands of people saw this, but in 2011, was it when we had it was a rope climb clean workout, and it was before we had any crash mats, so it was like a 20-foot rope climb.
Regionals, you mean?
No, it was at the games.
2011. Oh.
Remember that? So I decided it was a really good idea to wear booty shorts and just long socks, thinking that the only thing that was going to get burned was my shins. Let me tell you, when you're wearing booty shorts and you're doing rope climbs and you're Spanish wrapping, your upper thigh area can get really burned. And then when you have to go to the medical tent and be like, yeah, I'm really burnt in places I can't show you right now, that's embarrassing. There you go. Note to self, don't wear booty shorts and rope climbs.
Drop the mic for the win.
I have a couple. When I was little, I'm going to call this athletic because I was playing soccer in Pee Wee. I lined up for a free kick or something. So there was like 4 of us lined up, and my dad had this big camera on his shoulder, so he got it all on video. But the kid kicks the ball, it hit me in the face, and I went up. We all kind of held like this in a free kick. So. And this is not CrossFit related, so I don't really care. It's pretty funny. But he kicked the ball, hit me in the face. It rolled back to him, so I went up like this. He kicked it again. It hit me in the groin, and we had it all on film. It was like the $10,000 winner or whatever American Funniest Home Videos is. One of these days, we're going to send it in and see what we can get. So, I guess the most embarrassing CrossFit moment was double DT in 2016. I felt like the smallest person on earth because everybody was finished, and I was like pulling singles on deadlift, and I had nothing left. I ended up like having some bulging disc in my back like the whole time, and I didn't know it, but I was wondering why I couldn't like engage anything back here. But I guess that was like my embarrassing moment, CrossFit style. So
I had one in training actually where I let the bar crash on me on a clean, and it made me a little dizzy, and I started to pass out, and I dropped it, and I was like, and then I fell, and as soon as my butt hit the ground first, and as soon as my butt hit, I woke up. So it just looked super dramatic for no reason, but I was actually like passed out. And one of my friends, I showed them the video because I was like, look what happened to me today. Feel bad for me, and she made like a meme about it and posted it all over Instagram, and that was kind of embarrassing.
Okay, I'll be really quick. So I think weightlifters chronically avoid CrossFit workouts because maybe we don't want to breathe too hard, or we're a little nervous that it might be embarrassing. So I resisted for a long time as a competitor, and then for barbells for boobs at an event, guilt will do strong things. And they're like, well, this is for, cancer survivors. You should really do the workout. So actually my very first CrossFit workout was heavy grace. So 225, 30 clean and jerks. And I had no concept of how to approach a CrossFit workout. I just knew how to try and move really fast for a rep. So I did like 6 reps, probably like touch and go, like killed it, and then almost threw up and got time capped. And like people that's max was like 5 pounds over that, finished over me. And at the time I was like ranked fairly high in weightlifting, and it was in front of like 500 people. And I was like, well, this is a moment to be humbled. So that was my welcome to CrossFit.
Awesome. Well, guys, that's all the time that we have here.